welcome along to PSGL Season 32. We are here for the F1 tier on the PlayStation platform. We head to Spa-Francorchamps for this round of the championship, the Belgian Grand Prix. My name is Jess Ball, and joining me as per usual, we've got Mr. Aidan Carter. Aidan, how you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you, Jess. Thank you very much for asking. I heard you had a very good weekend over at the Autosport Show. So, yeah, I went to the Autosport Show myself as well. So it was a lovely weekend for the both of us. And yeah, ready to get back into it now. Get back into the season. And after last week in Portugal, the championship was really starting to heat up again. So we've got a lot to talk about beyond the championship as well tonight. So yeah, going to be a busy night, I think, for the two of us, especially around a track like Spa as well. That always throws a bit of a surprise.
Yeah, another one of my favourite tracks as well, but it does always bring a hint of rain. I usually tend to commentate on wet races around Belgium, but I don't think I did last season, which was great to see. But we'll check the standings, because last week we saw Legend take his first win of the season, which puts the gap down between himself and Rudy by 4 points. Now, Rudy did get penalty points, license points, and a 5-second penalty added to his race time due to an incident with Marcados, and also Marcados got a penalty as well for the same incident as well. So the stewards thought that both of them were to blame, of course. So that's why Rudy did not score any points at all. And we saw, I think it was Chiquita or Service that scored some points instead, because Service finished 11th. So Service gets his first point of the season, which is great to see. One thing you probably noticed on the standings, by the way, Orgiano has left the league. Don't know why, don't ask me. But replacing him in that Ferrari tonight, making his PSGL PSF1 debut. He is in the lobby. I was just double checking on my right hand side of the screen to see if he was in the lobby. It is Luca. I haven't seen him race before in any league or commentated on him, so I'm very excited to see what he could do in that Ferrari. In particular, Ferrari doing very well last week. So Luca's got some big shoes to fill, because Orgiano finished P2 last week in Silverstone. Portugal, sorry.
Yeah, he's got... Yeah, he really has, hasn't he? Got some big shoes to fill, and especially because if we look at the manufacturers' standings in a second as well, Ferrari, with that 1-2 finish last time out with Legend winning for the first time this season, and that podium for Orgiano, Ferrari have just taken the lead in the manufacturers as well after a bad round for McLaren. So really big shoes to fill for Luca Kart in his first race, that he's jumping into a seat that was filled by a driver who was scoring regular podiums and has left the league, unfortunately, and now the team is the front-running team in the manufacturers, so he's got to try and keep Ferrari at the top of the championship alongside Legend. So yeah, bit of a baptism of fire, I would say, for PSGL F1 for Luca Kart, but we don't really know what he's capable of. We haven't seen him race so far this season, so it's going to be interesting. It'll be definitely something that we can keep an eye on tonight, something to watch out for. So I'm excited to see what he can do tonight. So yeah, it could be great for Ferrari, getting some fresh blood in for the manufacturers. They could continue their rise in the championship, or it could be maybe a little bit of a downside for them into the final 4 rounds, that they've got someone new kind of bedding themselves into the top tier. So we'll wait and see.
Yeah, we will wait and see. As you were saying, Ferrari are on top of the standings with a 15-point gap between themselves and McLaren. And obviously with Frankie not scoring either, he DNF'd pretty much on the first lap, which did not help at all, and he crashed out. So that's what demoted them into second place. Aston Martin are in third on 69 points. We got Alpine in fourth on 58. Mercedes in fifth on 44. Then we got 42 points for Williams and AlphaTauri in sixth and seventh. Red Bull in eighth on 29 points. Alfa Romeo ninth on 16 points. Haas not doing too well in the constructors' standings at the moment. I believe both of them. Well, one of them's here tonight. Yeah, he missed last week, but he's here tonight. One of them's here tonight, whereas Chiquita, I believe, is not. So only one Haas driver will be here scoring points for the constructors this evening, but is looking to get back into the swing of things in this league. So let's get into qualifying. Dry qualifying as it stands. Pretty much everybody is out on in their outlet right now, so it strongly suggests it could rain towards the end of the session. I don't know, but it's not normal to see everyone on track this quickly. Look at that traffic in the final sector as well.
Yeah, big traffic in the final section. That's going to cool some of the tyres down a bit before the start of the lap as well. So yeah, interesting to see people out this early. Like you say, that maybe does suggest we could see a little bit of rain later on in this session. And of course, with it being such a long lap as well, the longest lap on the calendar as of right now in Formula 1 at least, it's potential that you could get easily caught out in the rain if you come out just a little bit too late. So that will probably be why everybody has gone out that early, like you say. And I think it's the two Williams that are first out onto the track, as they were at the end of the pit lane, so they get the best launch out onto the track from their pit box. So it will be Marcados that will probably follow along, I guess, for the first run through a lap around the famous Spa-Francorchamps circuit.
Yes, it was Juan Manuel Fangio that won the Belgian Grand Prix, the first Belgian Grand Prix in 1950, the same era as obviously Silverstone came to Formula 1 and the inaugural Formula 1 World Championship as well. Marcos did not get his lap off to a great start because he has invalidated his run in qualifying, and Fabi unfortunately has invalidated too. So that's two Williams who has invalidated. Let's see if, I'm just trying to see which AlphaTauri is next on the run. It is Ray. Let's see if Ray could do any better. He's on a run, thank goodness, as well as the two Aston Martins of Jensen and Rowan. Obviously, Rowan not doing quite well last week either, with Legend scoring more points than him, so he was able to close in a little bit. But Rowan has got a little bit of a point to prove because he has won a few races this season. Legend, of course, has only won one, so and Rowan obviously quite good in the wet as well as Legend. He could have been up there as well if he didn't have a few unlucky moments. But we'll watch one of the AlphaTauris go and finish off their lap first. We've got Ray, who's going towards the final corner. Pole in F2, by the way, was a 1:42.0 at the moment as Jens comes across the line first, and it's Ray with a 1:42.3. Rowan should be up to the line next, and it's a 1:42.2. So we're already seeing some quick lap times on the board already. We've got the two McLarens up next who need to have a better showing this week. Rudy comes across the line in second, about 100 slower compared to Rowan, and then Frankie comes across the line in P5. So everyone's saying some lap times on the board. A few people struggling to get off the mark, but it is Rowan out on top so far.
Yeah, Rowan on top, like you say, doing a good start to the session, and all of our top three in the championship occupying the top three spaces, not in the correct order. And as I say that, Asacombe comes in and beats him to the punch in the AlphaTauri, as he seems to always do in qualifying. So Asacombe to the top of the timesheets after the majority of the first runs are done. We've got Brock up to the line in the Mercedes, crosses the line P6 for Brock. Not a bad lap there, 42.4, just over 0.2 of a second off the pace at the moment. We're just waiting, I think, for Marlon, Nando and Kazizel to finish their laps. Nando, though, has invalidated and Marlon is backed off, as has Marcos. Actually, Kazizel's just crossed the line and gone P4, so he's now up into the top four places in the Alpine. So as you kind of expect around a track like Spa that's so familiar to these drivers, it's already very close in qualifying. From Brock upwards, you'd say 2.5 tenths kind of covers the top 7 at the moment. It's very, very close. And then a bit of a gap back to Frankie and Tom, who are a little bit separated, kind of in their own little mid-pack at the moment after the first runs in 8th and 9th. But yeah, Asacombe, once again, always does it in qualifying, doesn't he? But it just never really translates into race pace, unfortunately, or luck in the races, at least for Asacombe. He started off the season so well with a dominant win in the first round of the championship and has never come close to repeating that performance since, really, has he? He's had a ban. He's only had one podium since then as well. He's had a DNF, and yeah, it's been a rough season for Asacombe, which has been a real shame. So we'll see what Asacombe can do for the rest of the season, if he can at least maybe score another win before the season finishes, but not the season he would have wanted at all by this point. I mean, after winning the first round, he's now 31 points off the championship lead. That is a real downturn for Asacombe in performance, which is such a shame to see, because you got to say, behind Legend, he came into the season as one of the favourites.
Yeah, he was, and we were all talking good praise on him when he won a race in PSGL, PSF1. He hasn't done that much, to be honest with you, and I think he was relieved that he done so. But after that, he's just fallen by the wayside a little bit. Didn't perform well in qualifying, and the likes of obviously Rudy, Rowan, and obviously recently Legend has improved on their racecraft and got better, and obviously not in the case with Rudy last week because he got a penalty, but the likes of obviously Legend, we thought Legend was going to be out of the championship fight, and now he's back in it. So it's not over for Asacombe just yet. It is still quite a bit to go until the end of the championship. I believe it's the end towards the beginning of February is where the championship comes to a close. So he doesn't have that long at all, as we got Marlon going into the pits. Actually, it used to be a long track, this circuit, even though it's 7.004 kilometres a day. It used to go around the streets and the countryside of the Ardennes Forest, but for safety reasons they had to shorten the track a little bit, and the FIA regulations made Spa the only exception to the rule because it can't be more than 7 kilometres. But obviously Spa being Spa and it being a legend of a track as it is kept on the calendar for that reason. But tracks can't get any longer than 7 kilometres, to be honest. But it's such an iconic track. Everyone loves it. Everyone from all around the world comes and sees it. Believe it or not, it is cheaper to come here than going to Silverstone, for example, where I spent a lot of money to go and see Silverstone this year. But yeah, whereas you can see the likes of Spa and Austria, for example, for a similar price, the MotoGP ticket around here in real life in the UK. So there we go. So if you want to go to a cheap Formula 1 race, go to Belgium or Austria in real life. I'm afraid to go abroad, unfortunately, so I can't do that. But if I can conquer my fears, I would like to do so in the future. Everyone else is on out laps. Again, I'm trying to see who the first drivers to do so at the moment. Two of the Williams drivers had a very good performance in Silverstone. Did not do as well in, obviously, Portugal as well. Maybe because the track was still quite new to those two. But obviously, those two worked really well together this season as well. Obviously, Fabi being the very, very experienced in the top division, has been in and out of the division for quite a bit. He was in F1, I think, before I was around in PSGL, and then for most of it he was in F2 and then went back to F1 again. As I thought Fabi was going to go into the pits then, but he's going to actually start his lap. Whilst we do that, we may as well take it on board around the lap around Spa-Francorchamps at the moment, heading towards La Source as well. People can go cheeky down the inside on the right hand side if you want to. I don't do that around here because it's quite tricky as you go up the hill towards Eau Rouge, where we've seen famous incidents happen before. I think one in the wet, I think a few years ago, with Lando Norris as well. Luckily he was okay after all that as well. Past Radion in into the Camel Straight as well, speeds up to 212 miles an hour, and as you head towards Lake Com now, he's purple in sector 1. It remains to be seen if that is true as he heads towards Brussels at the moment. Doesn't seem too confident through there, but he gets a bit of traction through here as well. It's quite understeery through some parts of the track, heading towards the corner of No Name, which I still like to call it. Can't remember what it's actually called at the moment. And then you're heading towards Pouron. Good entry speed from him at the moment. Some people can go wide to carry more speed, but he decided to not do so. Now heading towards Campus now, heading into fifth gear here as well, and then to Stable 01, where I believe we saw George Russell and Giovinazzi collide there a few years ago, and it took them out of the race, unfortunately, as Fabi now heads towards Paul Fret and into one of the famous corners on the track, Blanchimont, where you put the most power in. He is in 8th gear already. Top speeds are quite a lot around there. Use a lot of VRS when you try to overtake, and some people can go for a move heading towards the bus stop chicane at this moment in time. So Fabi heads towards the final few corners then. He's going to sit, he hasn't invalidated his lap, so he's going to get a lap time on the board, and it's a 1:42.2, which puts him in P2. That is very impressive at the moment. And is it just me? I'm starting to see some dark clouds heading down the Ardennes Forest right now.
Yeah, I'm starting to see them as well. I'm also starting to see Rowan potentially jump into the top spot of these timesheets as he crosses the line. And there we go, 42 flat for Rowan to the top of the timesheets as Ray crosses the line and goes ahead of his teammate and into P2. So a good lap there from Ray. Legend crosses the line and can only manage P4. So not quite up there with his rival for the championship, but Rudy is on a good lap at the moment as well in the McLaren, so we'll see what Rudy can do as he comes up to the line. Luca Kart was just come into the pit lane, I believe, after having to abort a previous lap. He's currently down in 15th in his first qualifying session in the top division. So here comes our championship leader Rudy, looking for a bounce back after a rough run, crosses the line and goes to the top of the timesheets, and that is a brilliant lap from Rudy. Much more like it, you've got to say, from Portugal last week. From qualifying all the way through the race, Rudy just looked a bit off the pace. It didn't seem like the track suited him. This is much more like it from Rudy. He's up there in qualifying once again, but more runs coming in now. Brock has managed to go back up into P6. Gotta say, so far in the session, as Kazizel goes third on exactly the same lap time as Rowan, is so close at the moment inside this top 6, as Marlon now goes into P4 and makes it even closer. One driver who's standing out, I've got to say, so far in this session, who hasn't really stood out for the majority of the season, is Ray, you've got to say, isn't it? Ray was so strong at the end of last season for McLaren. Him and Kazizel as a teammate pairing were probably one of the strongest pairings in the top division last season, and Ray had such a good season, considering he moved up from F2 mid-season. And this season, it's just not gone his way. He's kind of faded into the background quite a bit, has Ray, this season. But P5 so far in this qualifying session is much more where we expected him to be coming into this season.
Yeah, definitely. And we have a driver that did well last week, but not doing so well in qualifying at the moment. It's Nando. His race pace, I have to say, was really, really good. He has invalidated his run down in 12th position, but only a few tenths off pole position. The top 12 separated by 3 tenths of a second, which I have to say, throughout the longest track on this circuit, I'm very surprised, but I believe it was like that last season as well, which shows how much time people have put into this circuit. A lot of people like this circuit to race in as well, despite the fact that it's very long, but it is less enduring as well, and it's lovely to look at as well. So I believe Nando will be going into the pits because it's such a long lap around it. Expect, I think, people to go out again very, very soon due to the fact it's getting, I think, darker by the minute. But you never know, it may not rain too much, and people may want to get laps in pretty much to the death at the moment, but it does depend on the weather system on this game. So we'll go through your order then. Rudy is on top at the moment with a 142.069. The current pole time in F2 was a 142.028. So not quite F2's pole time at the moment, but still hanging in there at the moment. It may be the first week that we may see the F2 pole time beat the F1 pole time, which is quite insane if you think about it, but I think it may be expected due to the weather starting to take a turn for the worse, unfortunately. I think the Might is going into the pit lane, so we will get a bit of a lull period at the moment. So top 6 separated by less than a tenth of a second. Is this F1 esports?
It seems like it, doesn't it? But it's always these classic tracks where drivers always seem to be incredibly close, isn't it, in qualifying? Places like this. Austria, of course, a much shorter track as well. Silverstone, another long circuit, but always seems to have a really, really close qualifying. So it's just something about a classic Formula One track, a proper Formula One circuit that brings out the best in all of these drivers, it seems to be. And then you go to the street courses or the semi-permanent circuits, and that's where the field starts to spread out a little bit. So, yeah, something about a classic Formula One track always brings out the best in drivers. Maybe we should have more of them on the calendar. Just take that into note, Formula One management. Please, no more of these silly street circuits that we don't need anymore. Yeah, it's so it's a really close qualifying, and yeah, it is getting very dark. So I wouldn't be surprised if everybody starts rushing out for their final runs now. I mean, there's only 3 minutes left on the timesheets anyway, so there's not that much time to get out and do a lap as it stands. I think Jensen looks like he'll be the first one to start a final run, and it's been kind of a sad season for Jensen, hasn't it? He was very strong again last season. He didn't quite have the consistency to really mount a season-long challenge for a title, but he was always fast, even if a little bit incident-prone. But this season's just not come together for him, has it, for Jensen? He's been comfortably outshone by his teammate Rowan, and he's just not looked on the same pace as we've seen from Jensen in the past, which is a bit of a shame considering the history he has in PSGL. But only 3-point scoring finishes the entire season is quite a shame. He's finished 8th twice, and then he's finished, I believe, in P5 once, and that's about it for his season. Not really much to show for after that. So yeah, well, hopefully we can see a bit of an upturn for Jensen in form towards the end of the season, but he's again a little bit separated at the back of the field in this qualifying session. It seems 13th down don't seem to be quite in their zone at the moment, it seems, and we're still yet to see a lap time on the board for Marquez, which is a bit of a surprise considering his season as well. And Marquez is another one that's had a bit of a weird season, hasn't he? He's kind of done the exact opposite of what he did last season. Last season he struggled at the start and came on song at the end of the season, and then he started off this season really well and has just kind of plummeted ever since. It's been kind of a weird season for Marquez. He's had the pace but never got the result. Kind of, you've got to say the same for the two Red Bulls, who have always had the pace but never got the result. So a lot of weird seasons going on at the moment, and the top 3 in the championship seem to be the only ones that can keep a consistent run of results going.
Yeah, exactly. Even Ledger can get much better results towards the second half of the season as well, despite the fact that his first win came last week in Portugal. But the highest he got before that was 2 12th places. And Marquez obviously took a while to get used to the game, and now he's used to the game. But maybe he just doesn't like certain tracks, or maybe he just gets a bit unlucky. To be fair, he was unlucky last week with Rudy with the incident. I would have liked to imagine what he would have done if he didn't get involved in that incident, where he would have been. I think he would have still probably would have got points in that race potentially as well, and obviously he does have a few license points to his name as well, which is not ideal. But heading towards the end of the season, there's drivers who we did pick to do well this season has fallen by the wayside a little bit, and look how cloudy it's got at the moment in Belgium. as everyone is on runs at the moment. Jens will be the first one to cross the line to finish his lap. There's a few people starting their laps, I believe, as well. Jensen up to the line, 1:42.4. He did improve, but only to P13. We have got Ascombe that's retired from the session, who's binned it just before sector 2. So that's not what you want for the pole merchant from last season, well, the qualifying merchant from last season. I believe we got, I think it's a Williams. No, it's not a Williams. He has invalidated. But Markados, talking about changing fortune. We were just talking about him just earlier on. And boom, he's on pole position. He will probably listen to us and like, we'll prove you wrong. And that's what Legend did last week. So maybe Markados is doing exactly the same thing. And Rowan now goes to top of the timing sheet. First man into the 1:41. So I didn't think anyone would get there in this session. But hurrah, someone has got there as well. We'll see what Ray can do in the other AlphaTauri. He hasn't invalidated yet. He's a few 100ths down. He needs to have a miraculous final sector in order to challenge for pole position. It's not going to be pole, but where's it going to be? He's 6th, but still a solid effort for him. I think it's one of the Haas drivers, it's the only Haas driver up next, which is Elia down in 16th. Has not invalidated either. 2 attempts up in the middle sector. What time could he find? Only P15 though for him. And I believe we've got the 2 Alphas up next. We have a spinner, I believe, somewhere. We got a yellow flag in the background. But let's watch Nando. 13th, not quite the qualifying session for him, but let's see if he can turn it around and get into the top 10. The answer to that is yes, for the time being. But Tom could spoil the party. No, he can't. Tom, unfortunately, has invalidated. Jensen has backed off. So it's mainly only Brock who's unfortunately invalidated. Marlon has invalidated. What about Markados? Markados has backed off because obviously he just did a run. So by 18 thousandths of a second, Rowan, who's currently sitting 3rd in the championship, a few points, well, almost 10 points behind Rudy, is currently on pole. And Rudy in 3rd, Legend in 7th position. And look at the gaps.
Yeah, it's incredibly close, isn't it? You've got to look all the way down to... I mean, just look at the gap between Nando in 10th and Tom in 13th. That is ridiculously close. That is 16 thousandths of a second separating 4 drivers, all for the final spot in the top 10. It is so close. From 13th up, there's only 2.5 tenths in it. That is crazy close. And then it's a little bit detached behind that, but even they are pretty close together as well. So yeah, once again, a very close qualifying session. And once again, in PSGL F1, we don't really see many people improving on their final runs. A lot of drivers kind of throwing everything at it for their final runs and not getting the lap they would have wanted or making a mistake. So those that do improve massively. And we were just talking about how Markados' season's tailed off and he's put it on the front row. He was just waiting for the final moment to just, I think, spring a surprise. That was what he was trying to do. But for Rowan, great for him. Pole position once again, leading the way from the start. He'll be filled with that, especially being 3rd and having not had the result he would have wanted last time out, considering the luck he had. So Rowan on pole. And Legend, from such a good result last week, P7 is only a 10th off pole position, but P7 is not where he would want to be. It's in a bit of a jeopardy position going into the first corner.
I have to say, it's going to be a close race, and make sure you stay tuned for the 50% race coming up. But let's run through your order then, with Rowan on pole, Markados P2, then we got Rudy, Kazizel, Marlon had a good qualifying, Ray 6th place, great result for him, Legend 7, Ascombe 8, Brock 9th, Nando your top 10, we got Fabi Namaya, Tom, Jensen, Service your top 15, Elia, Frankie and Luca your top 18. I have to say, Luca still pulled off an impressive showing despite the fact that he's last, but it just shows how close this F1 grid is at the moment. But before we get into the race, let's have a quick word from our title sponsor, GT Omega. Welcome back to PSGL PSF1, and as you can see, no threat of rain for the time being as the drivers head to the grid for the start of the Belgium Grand Prix. And what a qualifying session we have had. The top six were insanely close, and we have Rowan on pole with Marcados alongside two Mercedes powered cars on the front row. There was a few things to point out in qualifying. We were just discussing it in our 30-second interlude. I believe it's the first time this season where Tom did not perform as well as his teammate Brock. Brock qualified a lot higher than him this weekend as well. Obviously, Rudy back into form this week after horrible showing in Portugal, and some drivers needing to do a lot better. We saw in F2 earlier on, a majority of drivers have opted to start on the hard compounded tyres, with only a few on the mediums. Will we see the same here tonight in F1? Well, all will be revealed in just under 2 seconds, as the 5 red lights will come on your screen in just a moment. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights here at the Ardennes Forest in Spa. And it is lights out, and away we go. And let's see at the better start as we got Ronan takes the inside line, heading towards our source. Marcados to the left-hand side as well. He aims to the right, and it looks so clean so far. No, but it's not. And we got two drivers that gone off, had a bit of a spin. That's Amaya and Fabi. And also, I think it was just those two and had a bit of a coming together, unfortunately. But the top two remain as they are. Nowhere squiggles at the moment, but Marcados looking very, very good to try and get the lead into the Camel Straight. Luca Kart trying to get past Service as well, but let's watch the battle for the lead. Can he get past into that? Oh, that was so close. Going off the track almost, because Izzle could have tried to capitalise there, but he did not, unfortunately, as he stayed in third. And always a spinner. Who is that? Oh no, that's Sasako. Has had a bit of a coming together on the exit of Lacombe. That pushes Ray up to 4th place. Rudy's down into 5th place. So Ray's had a very good start. Rudy, not so much. Apart from a bit of a carnage in the midfield, looks like it all plain at the front. Asakome has had a spin again, so his tyres have overheated way too much. Everyone, though, unsurprisingly, has opted for the hard compounded tyres.
Yeah, unsurprisingly, like you say, hard compound, get them out of the way while everybody's warming them up now, and then get the advantage of the softer compounded tyre later on in this race. But apart from that little moment at the top of the hill for Marcados, that was very close to Rowan losing the lead, and now Rowan is pushing like crazy, I think, to try and break that DRS gap before the DRS is enabled in at 2 laps time. But that's very opposite of what we see usually. We see the leader usually just settle in and not burn an DRS and just lead the train. That is not really the case around Spa, because the DRS is so powerful around here. You can't really do that. You're really under pressure all the way through the lap, as Legend gets the move potentially here on Marlon, but Marlon's going to try and fight back into La Source. Legend's going to try and squeeze him to the inside line, but that Ferrari looking very fast in a straight line. Marlon then dips to the outside and goes onto the grass in the braking zone. Legend goes through and into 6th position, so good move there from Legend, getting up a position from his starting grid at the moment. Marlon dropping down a little bit. Nando's had a good start. He's managed to get up ahead of Brock and into P8 as Asakome has retired in the pit lane, unfortunately. That is a shame for Asakome, whose season just seems to go from bad to worse at the moment. And Nando now actually looking at the back of that Red Bull with Marlon now, but not quite close enough to think about a move into the Lacombe chicane. But yeah, that was a big odd wobble for Marcados at the top of the hill. I think he got so close to the top of the mountain, thinking that he was potentially going to be leading the race, that he got a bit trigger happy with how hard he hit the brake pedal when it nearly spun him out. But luckily for him, he got away with it, and he's still in 2nd position. And you can see already the top 2 pushing quite hard, and Kazizel almost already dropping out of DRS range to the top 2.
Yeah, I think Marcados maybe just not used to running up front or attacking for the lead or something. I always get that sometimes if I'm running in like 2nd or 3rd place, and I get trigger happy as well. So it is quite common when you're not used to being up there, but it does come through experience and it comes through time. And the more races Marcados actually does in this tier, in this division, then he would definitely be challenging for wins more. Maybe he still will challenge for wins now at the moment. Other big gainers so far this race, Luca Kart, don't forget, debutant in this division full-time in the Ferrari, replacing Orgiano, who is believed now, I've confirmed, has moved to the PC side now permanently, so obviously that's why he's not racing on PS anymore. Fair enough, as Luca looked like he could try and get a move on the Haas driver as well. He's gained one of the most places on this grid, so a solid debut start for him in that Ferrari. I'm sure Legend will be very happy with that, because they want to remain top in the manufacturers at this moment in time. Brott hasn't gained anything at the moment, and he's got his teammate chasing him down as well. I wonder if there's going to be any inter-team rivalry going on, just like we saw with George Russell and there is Hamilton asking on the radio if they were going to let them race. Luckily, it was a bit more calmer in that camp compared to obviously Hamilton and Rosberg back in the day. Meanwhile, Rudy on the back of Ray can't get past him for the time being. It's now the big DRS train that we know and love around Spa as the ERS deployment. They're trying to save their battery as much as they can to avoid running out towards the end of the lap. Yellow flag, unfortunately, Service had a bit of a spin in the background. He's lost 2 places, gained one of the drivers who's dropped down positions, same with Rudy and Marlon. Fabi has dropped down 5 places after that spin earlier. Lemire has dropped down 3 places. Those two had a bit of a come in together as well. The top 2 remain as they are at the time being at the moment, and we will expect more moves to be made in the first sector. It's quite hard to do it in the middle sector. Maybe you could do it in the final sector, but the first sector is really where you start to get the moves, and then the middle sector is where you save that battery ready for the next lap. But we also got to keep an eye on the fuel usage as well, as Rudy is, you can tell he's underfueled the car. It's quite common to underfuel the car around here because there's some places where the fuel consumption is not as high.
Yeah, this is definitely one of those tracks where it is definitely one of those cases, isn't it, where your fuel consumption isn't that high around here, and especially running in a DRS train, you tend to save a bit of fuel as well, and we know what Spa's like with DRS trains, so you're more than likely going to save fuel than anything else in a race like this. So that is why a lot of these drivers will have underfueled their car coming into this one. Just keeping an eye on Namaya, he's just slowly but surely trying to work his way back into the DRS train at the back of the field after that contact at lap 1. I had a look back at that incident for Namaya and Fabi. Just classic Namaya on the outside, Fabi in the middle of a 3-wide situation, Namaya not wanting to go off the road to bail out of the outside line, and they just kind of got hooked together and spun off the side of the road. And that is unfortunately for Fabi the second week in a row that has happened to him at the first corner on the first lap, because the exact same thing happened to Fabi in Portugal last week when he had a pretty decent qualifying. So Fabi's not had the best of luck on lap 1s as of recently, unfortunately. It's been a bit of a recovery drive for the past couple of rounds for him, sadly, but still a long way to go and plenty more to happen. We've already seen a few drivers make mistakes in this race. We've already had a retirement, so yeah, a lot of things to come in this race that could potentially bring him back into play. But now that we're on lap 4, it's just starting to settle down a bit now, isn't it? There's not really anybody fighting all that hard. I'm keeping an eye on the ERS levels at the moment. At the moment, best in the top 10 since Marlon at the moment. In fact, scratch that, the 2 Mercs have the best, but they're currently down in 9th and 10th. They're pretty much at the back of the queue in the top 10. So they've got the best CRS, but not really anywhere to use it at the moment, unless you can think of a move, an unorthodox move somewhere else on the track. But I think with the long, high-speed corners you've got around this track, and the fact that you don't run a lot of wing on your car for this track, the dirty air here actually does tend to affect you more than it does a lot of other circuits, because you don't have the grip in the wings to keep you down on the road, and the corners are quite long, so the dirty air is always going to affect you more in longer corners. So that's why we're starting to see the gaps kind of spread out a lot in the middle sector and then come back together again in the third and the first. But again, Kazizel in third place has less ERS than both of our 2 leaders and is still kind of struggling to keep up. He's teetering on the edge of losing DRS. The DRS detection point is just before Eau Rouge. He's managed to keep it this lap around, but the second he loses that, he is just going to potentially plummet through the train of cars he's got queued up behind him.
Yeah, exactly, and I think there's going to be a few people that are going to be trying to save some ERS as well, but we'll watch out for Marlon as he heads towards the Kemmel Straight now to try and gain this battery. He's not using it at the moment, so he can't get past. Imagine if he would have used it, if he would have tried to get past, but I'm guessing he just wants to be a bit more cautious. By the way, I don't know what has happened. DVR was disabled for some weird reason, so I really do apologise about that, but luckily it is all now fixed, and luckily we can get underway and people can rewind the stream back if they wanted to. So thanks Connor and Evan for pointing that out in the live chat. That's why I should check the settings before I start streaming. I think that's a lesson learned for next week, and I think that's a lesson learned from the commentators as well. I don't know why it happened. I probably selected the wrong stream key or something like that, but anyway, it should be all fixed now. Let us know if it is not. But we're on lap 5 of 22 at this moment in time. Rowan still leads. The top 2 remains unchanged. You can see Markodos trying to save a bit of battery, or trying to actually use a bit of battery actually, with 41% just to stay ahead of Rowan, which strongly suggests Rowan can have the ability, even without ERS, to try and keep ahead of Markados right now, and he's on 43% as well, as Sizzle's around about the same on 30. Ray is not using as much, so if anything else happens in front of him, he's able to attack. I have to say, Ray is having his best result of the season so far, Touchwood. He's gained 2 places, has no results to show this season how good he is. Obviously got promoted to F1 in the middle of last season, but definitely showing why he's supposed to be here, of course, because there could be certain indications where some drivers could be moved down again, which we do not want to see happen, of course. And again, no moves being made at the moment, which strongly suggests how difficult it is to overtake, with obviously the hard tyres at the moment being at its prime. We could see a potential undercut strategy around about lap 10 and lap 11. That's what we saw on the F2 side of things. So we could see it here as well. Oh my goodness, Ray almost got to the back of Kazizzle there as he was trying to close in on him as well. So I wonder if Ray is even quicker than Kazizzle, but just don't want to get past just yet. He could use a bit more battery, to be fair, but he wants to save it for the rest of the race, which is a fair shout, to be honest. So we'll see, obviously, what he can do as we head towards the first third of this race. And look at that already, Kazizzle almost out of DRS range of the top 2.
Yeah, he's really struggling now, isn't he? And you can kind of see as well, as he comes down to the run towards the bus stop, he's using some ERS to try and keep within range, but his car just doesn't seem to be that fast in a straight line. He seems to lose a little bit even down this back straight, having used a bit of ERS at the start of the straight, and Markados doesn't. He's just slowly losing a bit of time, so that's just because Izzle's gone for something that's a little bit higher downforce than the 2 leaders, and it's not really giving him enough of a benefit in the middle part of the lap, and he's just losing time on the straights. So he's obviously gone for a compromise, maybe to try and get a bit more downforce on the car, and it's just not working properly for him at this moment in the race compared to our 2 leaders. And he goes a bit deep there into the source as well. He's not going to get the best run out the corner. He looks like he's just going to survive for another lap to keep within DRS range. But one thing to note as well is these 2 push to try and keep the 2 leaders. They are dangerously close as well from dropping Rudy. Rudy does have a bit more ERS in his back pocket to use should he need to, but he is also teetering on the edge of losing DRS to the drivers in front. So yeah, they are all playing it a bit they're playing it a bit on edge at the moment. One little mistake and they'll easily drop out of DRS range, so they don't want to be making any mistakes at this point in the race, as Markados that time around got very close to a move potentially past Rowan, but wasn't quite close enough and decided against going for the move. So Markados sitting there in second position at the moment, definitely challenging plenty for the leaders. We've got a spinner further down. That is Jensen, who has spun coming out of Malmedy and has put it on the grass. That looks like he's got a bit of damage on the front wing as well. Yes, he has. So Jensen's miserable season continues with another spin and a bit of damage on the front of that Aston Martin, and that's not going to help Aston Martin, the constructors, either at the moment, which is a bit of a shame for them. So yeah, Jensen's rough season just continues. It just doesn't seem to be going well for him this season, does it?
Nope, it doesn't. He's down in last place at the moment and has gained the least majority of the drivers, and hasn't scored many points in the last couple of races. And yeah, I predicted this man at the start of season 31 that he was going to... Oh, Tom's out of the race. Tom is out of the race, and we've got a safety car. Now, that is not good news for anyone, because they're all on the hard compounded tyres. Tom is out of this race. I'm trying to see where he binned it, actually. It's hard to tell because Paul Frere he binned it. So yeah, unfortunate. That's giving a lifeline for Jensen. Jensen probably didn't know that there was a safety car happening, but he should know because it was a thing popped up on his screen, unless he had a glitch or something. But drive-through penalty for Jensen. He can't serve it until pretty much the end of the safety car bid. I did say it was a life save for him, but he was going a bit too fast under this safety car. But he's going to have to pit anyway for a set of the meters. I have to say it's far too early for the meters, but to be honest, these drivers have no other choice as Jensen has retired. Not surprising, to be honest. We got to keep an eye on these tyres towards the end, because it will probably be going puncture territory at this stage, because realistically it can only last about 9 laps, give or take the best optimal window. But we've seen it last a bit longer than that before. You never know what could happen around it. It could last longer than we were expecting.
Yeah, definitely could, but of course we've got 15 laps left in this race as it stands right now. Everybody's very close, so the safety car is only going to last 2 laps. So we'll have 13 laps of racing left on a set of medium compound tyres. That is a tall order. That is a pretty tall order on these medium compound tyres. And even if they aren't in puncture territory, this is one of those tracks where you do not want worn tyres, because the long corners, the fast corners, put these cars on edge at the best of times, especially with the low downforce they're running. Add in very, very worn medium compound tyres to that mix, and these cars are going to be very, very difficult to handle. And we've already seen today that drivers are struggling to get the best of times with handling these cars. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting now, but very interesting at the end to see how these drivers decide to manage their tyres. This is a lifeline for Fabi Steffensen and Meyer, of course, who all had their own incidents earlier on in this race. They're now caught back up to the back of the pack as well, so they are fully back in the game. I think that's great, especially for Fabi and Meyer, who were caught up in that incident on lap 1. And yeah, I was just riding on board with Elia when that incident happened, because he was under pressure with Luca Kart and Tom, kind of making the fatal error that we see a lot of times at Curve Paul Frere, where you kind of just have a little bit of a twitch in the middle of the corner, and because of where the barrier is placed on this game at least, there's no margin for error on the exit of the corner, and the second you hit that barrier, it's game over. So yeah, Tom is very unlucky in that sense. He had a little bit of a snap, and it's just caught him out in the wrong part of the track, but hopefully by the time the next game rolls around, that will be updated, because that barrier is no longer there with the new layout of Spa. That is a full wide runoff. So in the future, we won't see incidents like that. But for the time being, Tom caught out in a part of the track that usually you don't really think about. But if you do make a little mistake there, it punishes you big time.
Yeah, it does. And I have got some data, some facts on how long the tyres are meant to last. And let's just say, it doesn't last very long at all. Mediums can only last 12 laps, and we've got more than that to go this Grand Prix. It's give or take with a reduced safety car period. They could just about make it, but we've got to keep an eye on the pace as well. They're going to have to start using techniques to make sure they can get to the end, but well, you never know. There could be another safety car. We've seen it many a times in PSGL. We've seen it in the PC tiers as well earlier on in the week. And there's a 7/10, well, pretty much a 7/10 difference between the mediums and the hards as well. So if anyone stays on the hards, they could be at a huge disadvantage. They have no other choice. So we'll run through your order then, because pretty much everyone has gone into the pits. No undercut, unfortunately. I was going to hope to see if either the undercut or the overcut was going to be powerful, but unfortunately that theory is not going to be talked about on this stream. So Rowan is leading at the moment, has pretty much stayed there since the start. Another person that stayed since the start is P2, is Markodos, because he's all pretty much stayed roughly where he was in third for the majority of the race. Ray in fourth, Rudy fifth, Legend gained a few places to sixth, but Rudy crucially ahead of Legend. But bearing in mind with the likes of Rowan and Rudy, 16 points for first place, and Rudy is only in fifth place. I'm trying to remember how many points you get for fifth place. I think six points, I believe. So yeah, that is a big margin. I believe Rowan, or it might be no, it's not 10. 10 points is third place. So yeah, I believe Rowan, if it stays as it is, Rowan will lead the driver standings over Rudy as it stands. Actually, no, it might not be. I will have to do the maths, unfortunately, but it's 10 points. Yeah, he will lead the standings by 1 point. So, yeah, quite close. And this championship could even get any tighter than that as well. So Legend needs to get past Rudy ASAP on the opening lap. But I was going to say Jensen had a drive-through, but he has retired, so no drive-throughs, luckily. Safety car is in this lap. Let us know your predictions in the chat, everybody, on who you think is going to win this race. As Rowan looks like he's a favourite at the moment, but he's still got just over half of this race still to go, plus 2 laps, so you can't become complacent. So Rowan, he's got to decide when to lead the field away, as he's modulating the throttle Is he going full throttle now? He's going full throttle now. Not where I would have gone full throttle, but he's gone just before the bus stop chicane to make sure not many people would get a tow. So decent restart from him, decent restart from a lot of the field at the moment. But I think Markados was caught napping there. There's already 5 tenths separating between him, Rowan and Markados. Right now, Marlon's had a good start as well. Only 2 tenths behind Legend as well. Legend's been caught napping as well. Everyone seems to get away decently. The source was perfectly fine from everyone. Let's see how they all manage our Rouge now. Can they keep it clean? Luckily, they saved a bit of BRS battery, luckily, and also a bit of fuel. So hopefully the problem that they had with fuel earlier will be resolved as Marlon then, as Legend covers off Marlon there quite nicely. I think he knew where Marlon was going to go, as Legend stays ahead of Marlon. I'm in the 6th place at the moment. Elliot got a 3-second time penalty, our first time penalty of the session. Frankie, though, get past the debutant of Luca Kart down the inside. We almost saw Fabi get past as well, as he's had a bit of a spin.
Yeah, Fabi went for a move there down the inside into the hairpin on Luca Kart. I don't think that move was really ever on, but Luca Kart didn't really leave a lot of room either. So just as Fabi's back in this race with that safety car period, as quickly as that's happened, he's back out of it again with another incident on the restart. So Fabi's not having the best of luck in these races, is he? He keeps getting caught up in an incident every time he gets back into the pack. So Luca Kart now down to 14th. He was having such a good race as well. He was up to 11th, fighting for the final spot in the points, but that, unfortunately for him, has now disappeared unless we get another safety car late on in this race. But look at the leader, Rowan, 1 second clear now of Markados. Rowan is burning that ERS to try and get away at the front of the field. Markados is burning his ERS trying to keep up, and Kazizel not burning as much at the moment in 3rd position, but Rowan doing the best he can right now to try and break away at the front of the field. Is he wearing his tyres out too much though? We won't know, of course, until later on. But either way, Rowan on these medium compound tyres is looking very, very strong, as if he wasn't looking strong enough on the hards. On the mediums, Rowan is looking even stronger and is pulling away at the front of the field.
Definitely, I have to say, this is one of his strongest performances I've seen in a while. Obviously, he did well in Silverstone a couple of weeks ago, but he's already breaking free of DRS before the DRS is activated on the next lap, because they only have pretty much is activated on the 3rd lap after the safety car. So Rowan definitely doing what he needs to do at the moment. He's absolutely flying at the moment on these mediums. I think that strongly suggests that he can perform better under pressure on the mediums, or maybe he's pushing a little bit too much on those mediums at the start of the safety car restart. Maybe a lot of other people are trying to save their mediums, knowing that it's going to be a bit of touch and go on whether they can get to the end. So I think Rowan has got a lot of work to do, maybe saving a bit. But if he's saving as well as managing to pull that gap, then I have to say fair play. But he's got to be careful not to over push it too much, because otherwise a puncher could come his way towards the end of the race. Luca, 3-second time penalty for him, and no major battles happening for the time being. I think we'll see the main battles happening on the next lap, on lap 12 so far. And I know Fabi, even though he's down in 15th position, I know he's a fighter and he does not give up. So expect to see some challenges to try and get past Luca Kart once again. And we also got a battle for the last point as well. Don't forget the top 10 score points. And we got the likes of Frankie, Service, Zamaya, Elliot, and Brock all in that fight as well. So of course Elliot having that penalty, so he probably will drop down so far. So some very intriguing battles for that at the moment. And now DRS is activated. It's time to get the guns blazing and trying to get some moves done, hopefully. It's Frankie almost trying to get past that source. No, he's going to wait for the DRS, luckily, but he's very tight on the back of Elliot. There's a lot of people that are almost out of DRS of the cars in front, so they're not able to get the move done. So we'll see what Frankie can do then. He decides he's going to go for the move now. Even though Elliot's just about got the DRS, Frankie's just a little bit faster. There's not much space though heading towards Icon. He has to back out sooner or later. But they're still going side by side. Just about enough space was given. And what a move from Frankie, I have to say. A man who retired from Portugal last week on the 1st lap. He got the move and now on track. And obviously with penalties, he's now in the point with a sensational move, I have to say. Oh, that was close. Hopefully that was not lag my end, but that was almost close to him losing 10th place. But yeah, great move from him, and yeah, he knew he had to eventually leave space, because otherwise he would have faced the wrath of the stewards.
Yeah, that was a lovely move there from Frankie, like you're saying. Fair play as well to Elia. Hard but fair racing, giving just enough room, not making any contact. Both of them really good racing. And yeah, I think Frankie knew he had to get that move done. Elia was losing pace with the drivers in front, as Frankie has another moment now coming out of Savalo. So Frankie pushing quite hard to try and keep up with the train in front. Elia was already starting to lose touch with Brock in front, so I think Frankie wanted to get that move done before it was impossible for him to get back in the DRS train. So fair play for Frankie to get that move done. It was a hard but fair move. That was brilliant racing between the two of them. Just keeping an eye on the gaps at the front of the field. It's kind of stabilised now at 1.5 seconds between our top two. So Rowan's obviously burnt a lot of ERS trying to get into a good comfortable gap, and now that he has got that comfortable gap, he's not burning any more ERS. He's just keeping it at a steady pace. And Markaros, while he's obviously not got the benefit of DRS the car in front at the moment, Kaziz was nowhere near close enough to really challenge for that second place at the moment, and I don't think Kaziz really wants to challenge, it seems, at the moment. I think he is comfortable sitting in third and just saving those tyres and saving some ERS for later on in the race when he will definitely need it. Rudy, though, I think is one who's potentially looking to maybe getting a little bit impatient in that 5th place. You've got to say that Rudy's pace is probably a bit higher than where he is, but he just can't find a way through at the moment in this train, as Marlon now gets a 3-second time penalty in P7. So Red Bull season just continues to drop. And another driver, again, just like in Portugal, who was kind of flown under the radar but is having a very solid race once again, is Nando. You've got to remember back to the first few rounds of the season, Alfa Romeo, I think, were the last team to get off the board in terms of scoring points. They really struggled at the start of the season, but Nando really starting to find his feet in this top division. Best performance of the season last time out in Portugal, and for the second week running is having a very strong run here in the mid part of the top 10.
Well, to be honest, he scored all the points in Alfa Romeo in the manufacturers, because obviously all his other teammates not scored as many points. Obviously Service scored one last week in Portugal, but the majority of the other points have gone in Nando's favour, and because of that they're not last in the championship. They got 16 points compared to Haas's 4, so even though they were the last to get on the board, that doesn't mean they want to be last in the championship forever. And that is kind of like that battle for last spot like we saw in F1 Esports. You do not want to be in at last spot, because that is where the danger lies for them. But obviously Nando is showing that he wants to pick up the pace up a little bit. But I'm looking at Nando's recent results to show how well he's improved throughout the season, because don't forget, he was in F2 last season and he got promoted to F1 this season. No points in the first 2 rounds. He got 3 points in Zandvoort. He got 2 points in Canada. A DNF, unfortunately, in Austria. I believe it was Austria. And we have got 4 points in Silverstone. He had a good showing there, and he got 6 points in Portugal. So, yeah, the last 2 races was really where he found his form. He obviously got 2 points in Canada, and that DNF in Austria did not help matters, as Elias had a bit of a spin. And I think we've seen the first damaged front wing of today's stream, which is, I'm quite surprised, because I thought we would have had more, but obviously not, as Elliot will probably have to make a trip to the pit. So luckily though, if they chose a balanced tyre strategy, they've got a spare set of mediums. I don't think softs can get to the end, but I might be wrong. But he does have another set of mediums to play with if he so wishes, because you do not want to go on the hards at least latter stage of the race. But yeah, Elliot's chance of points is nothing now. So
yeah, it's pretty much over, isn't it, for him, unfortunately. But one thing we have missed, by the way, is Rudy's got past Ray somewhere. Rudy has passed Ray for P4, and now Legend is all over the back of Ray for P5. So I don't know if Ray's made a mistake somewhere, or if he's picked up some damage, but Ray all of a sudden, from a comfortable P4, is just starting to struggle a little bit. So whether Ray's picked up some damage somewhere, or he's just made a mistake, or his tyres are hot, I'm not quite sure. But Rudy's managed to get up into P4 now and is fighting for that podium spot, and Ray is just starting to slowly drift backwards in this train, which is a bit of a shame to see, considering he's had such a strong start. And Frankie, unfortunately, seems to have made a mistake somewhere, or he was playing DRS chicken down that straight, because he has decided to drop behind Surface and Namaya.
Oh, Luke is out.
Yeah, Luke is out. I think that's in the pit lane, unfortunately, for Luca. Yeah, he's out of the race, which is sad to see. Ellie is into the pit lane as well to replace that front wing, but he's still going. And there we go, Legend and Ray going side by side. Legend trying to squeeze Ray to the inside and not leaving that much room for Ray on the inside. And Ray goes around on the inside of Lecom. We see it all the time with Lecom. If you don't leave enough space on the inside, the curb doesn't allow for you to drive side by side. I think Legend was already squeezing him in the braking zone and then decided to squeeze him a bit more on the apex. that might be a report potentially coming Legend's way if Ray feels something about that, because that was a top 5 result potentially on for Ray tonight, and Legend didn't really leave a lot of racing room on the inside of Lake Colm. We've just seen a great battle between Frankie and Elia between that chicane, and we've just seen perfectly how to pull that move off cleanly. That time around, Legend did not do that, and Legend has unfortunately caused an incident for Ray, who was having probably his best race of the season. That is no longer the case, and I fear Legend may have a report coming his way for that one.
Now, I've just seen Frankie going off a little bit. He is struggling, I think, to get his tyres up to temperature, or maybe he spun off earlier on. I don't know. He's going a bit slowly. But, yeah, Frankie definitely showing the other drivers that, hey, I could get a move down there, so you should follow my lead. And unfortunately, the likes of Legend and Ray, unfortunately, that did not work out as well as it thought at the moment. So, final stage of the races, and as long as things don't go horribly wrong for this man, it's looking like he's definitely the favourite to win this race. 2.1 seconds is the gap between himself and Marcos, and fair to say, nothing has gone wrong for him so far in this race. Pretty much he got pole at the bitter end of the qualifying session, and obviously Marcos as well doing well in qualifying, and two of them have pretty much stayed where they are. So because it's also the top 3 doing very well, but I think Rudy could get past another driver as well. So Maya gets past Service up into 9th place right now on track, and that was a fight for 9th, but we could see a fight for the points for Ray. And fact, no, not Ray, because he's a few seconds down, unfortunately. So it looks like we will have our point scorers, unless obviously Marlon picks up more time penalties. I think Frankie goes into the pit, so one of he's picked up some sort of minor damage that we've not seen, or maybe he's struggling with his wheel or something. I don't know, but it's a bit of a shame with him making a very great move into Lake Colm that he forced to pit like that. But he's got a fresh set of mediums that he can get to the end from, no problem. So he could start pushing. If there is a safety car, he could go on the softs as well. He's got nothing to lose. But we'll see what his teammate can do, Rudy, who's still got a podium. I believe Rudy, I think they'll be level on points the way this is going. Cause you get, I'm not entirely sure, but it's good. Looking tight at the top between Ryan and Rudy right now. Pretty much overtaking Kazizel would cement his place at the top of the standings.
Yeah, definitely would. If it's as it finishes right now, yeah, they would be level on points, because Rowan at the moment does have the point for fastest lap. So that would be a 9-point difference between the two of them in this race, and there's 9 points between them. So yes, that would put Rowan at the top. They'd be joint on points, but Rowan would go to the top pure and simply because he'll have more wins to his name. So yeah, Rudy is looking very close at the moment, isn't it? See if Rudy can get the move done on Kazizel or Marcos and get up. Rudy's looking very racy now. You can see he's starting to pile the pressure on a bit more and trying to get people to make moves, and Kazizel, I think, is potentially being forced into a move here on Marcos to try and keep on that podium position. Marcos decides not to fight it. Kazizel goes down the inside and he takes that second place away. So Kazizel's up into second, Marcos down to third, but if Marcos is anything like we've seen any other drivers do, he'll probably just sit behind and wait for the right opportunity to come back at Kazizel later on in the race, as Namaya now picks up a time penalty, and that is potentially an opportunity for Ray to get back in the points if he can find about a second on the Red Bull for the remainder of this race. But yeah, Rowan is just driving away, isn't he, at the front of the field? As soon as he's broken that DRS, he's just driven away, and that is the power of a DRS train. The second you can break DRS and pull away, if you're faster than the driver behind, you can just disappear off into the distance, and that just goes to show how powerful DRS is around this track. That now that Kazizel and Marcos are nearly 3 seconds off the lead, and how easily it was for them to keep up earlier on when they were in DRS, now that they're not, they are nowhere near. So yeah, Rowan absolutely dominating. When Rowan does win, he does like to dominate, doesn't he?
Yep, he does. I think pretty much all the races he's take part in this season, he's dominated every single one of them. Remember Silverstone, where he did 26 laps on a set of the intermediate tyres. A lot of drivers around him pitted, whereas he decided, nope, you know what, I'm going to stay in and stay out, and stay on my old Seb Inters, and it worked out for him. He had the confidence. Yellow flag, I think it's Elia that spun, or was it Frankie? It was one of the two. Has had a bit of a moment, unfortunately, but that's their race, unfortunately, not going as well, as my monitor is turning off in 5 minutes. No, thank you. I'm turning on the button to make sure it doesn't do that. Meanwhile, I think Rudy's starting to feel the pressure with his championship rival at the moment, nipping at his heels of Legend, because Legend and Rudy at the moment are very close in championship standings. 4 points separate the difference. If Legend gets past, I think it will be a 2-point difference. between himself and Rudy could not afford to be passed by Legend, mainly because the championship is on the line and we only have a few races left. Of course, we have Australia next week, then we've got Abu Dhabi, and then we've got Kota to round off the season. And bearing in mind, PCF1 kickstart their season on Wednesday around Australia. You can watch it with the likes of George Morgan and Jack Canaan commentating at this season. So make sure you check it out Wednesday evening at 7 o'clock. But these drivers are definitely giving it their all today to make sure they're on the right foot for Australia next Monday. And I think the Legend definitely still had a chance of that podium, as well as Rudy. And Markados must be putting the pressure, isn't he?
Yeah, he's definitely feeling the pressure. I think now is it's getting to a point now where I think everybody's just starting to get a little bit impatient, aren't they? 4 laps to go when we cross the line. Everybody's starting to use up their ERS reserves that they had. They're just starting to push people into making mistakes, and we're starting to see those moves come and go here. So we'll see who will be the next person to try and trigger a move. I think it will probably be Legend by the looks of things. He looks like he wants to get past his Talent Factory teammate Rudy and get up into 4th position. So we'll see what they can do. Looking further down in this train, by the way, Brock has managed to pass Nando somewhere. Didn't quite catch that overtake, but Brock is now up into 7th, make that a net 6th, of course, with Marlon's penalty. And fair play to Brock, you've got to say, Brock has picked up one 5th place finish in this season, and then another point scoring finish, I believe, at Monaco was his other point scoring finish. His 5th place finish was at Bahrain. But other than that, Brock has had a pretty rough season. He's only had 2 point scoring finishes. You've got to say, even with Tom's bad luck, he's been completely outshone by Tom, but this has definitely been a very strong race for Brock today. So nice to see Brock a bit further up in the race standings compared to where we've seen him for the majority of this season, flying the flag for Mercedes after Tom's had a pretty rough round by his standards. So yeah, Brock flying the flag for Mercedes and flying it well for the moment, P6 as it stands. And again, like I said earlier on, Nando still doing a brilliant job, still in a net P7 with that penalty for Marlon. So still doing a brilliant job, even if he is slightly getting detached at the back of this train now. I think the raw pace of the drivers in front of him are just starting to show Nando's lack there of a pure race pace. He's just starting to drop off the back ever so slightly.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame at the moment. For some reason, I thought the flag in the standings was Austria, but it's not. It was Monaco. I completely forgot that we were in Monaco, and it's one of my favourite circuits to commentate on. Apologies about that. It just shows how busy my day was at work today. Final few laps of this race. Anything can happen, but all we do know is there are going to be no safety cars, I don't think, because we've got so little laps of this race. But we are approaching puncture territory for these medium tyres. I'm not going to be wanting to be the drivers racing at the moment, trying to save tyre life and also try and get past for the podium. So Rudy's going to find a top job, but he knows he's quicker than Markados, so he's going to find every trick in the book to get past Markados on lap 20 of 22 then. So let's see then, as he's past the source, heading towards the top of the hill of our route. He goes in into 8th gear, trying to carry all the speed in tow as he can. His straight line speed is amazing, I have to say. He's using his overtake, don't want to be using too much, but like you were saying earlier, this DRS is so powerful, but Rudy does not care. It's going to be so close. Rudy's boxed in with the likes of Markados has made contact with Rudy. Rudy almost made contact with Kazizel. Markados has gone off, and what looked like to be an instant free race for Markados, it looks like he could be out of the points if he's not careful. What a shame for Markados. Oh, on the final few laps as well. He just got a bit greedy.
I don't really know what to make of that one, but for the second week in a row, it's Rudy and Markados coming together. They had 2 incidents in Portugal that they were both penalised for, and we've come here and again another incident between the two of them. I don't really know what to make of that one. I don't know. It's kind of a hard one. It does seem like, I feel like it was maybe a bit over-ambitious from our championship leader to think that move was on. He had Kazizel directly in front of him. He was boxed in. I don't really know where Rudy thought that move was going to go. But again, of course, Markados, of course, made contact as well. So I don't really know what to make of that one. And I don't know what the stewards will make of that one. They punished both of them, of course, for their incident in Portugal. I would not be surprised if they punished both of them again for that one. But yeah, I feel like now we've had so long in this season where Rudy's not needed to take any risks because he's had such a big championship lead for most of the season. And now that he needs to take risks, every time he is taking a risk, he's making a mistake of it, and he's making too many errors. And even if that move was on, was it worth that risk? Because now he's made contact, there's potentially a steward's report loovering over his head, and he's now got a 3-second penalty, of course, for cutting the chicanes, so that's going to drop him down places as well. And to make things worse, he's now got Legend right up behind him. So was that overtake really worth the exchange for Rudy, as he's now going to go for the move on Kazizel for second place now, trying to
again.
go round. Yeah, he's round the outside. He's got the move done this time around. Kazizel backs out of it. Rudy's up into second, but is he going to be able to keep that second after this race is finished? I don't really know. I think Rudy now has gone from having to take no risks in this championship because he had such a lead to taking too many risks and not taking the right ones.
Yeah, he will still be leading the championship going into next week's race, providing he does not get a 5-second time penalty from the steward. So he's going to hope the stewards rule in his favour so he can still keep that lead. If he does not, then Rowan will take the lead of this championship. Rowan has had little to no pressure. He didn't mind where he was. He was sitting third in the standings going into tonight. He's now, I believe, going to sit second in the standings. I might be wrong, which will be a solid result for Rowan. And I think the pressure just happened behind him. He's just like, you know what? You fight. You go and have a bit of a ding-dong battle and crash. I just keep on going, thanks. And that's exactly what he's doing. To be honest, we haven't talked much about him this race or seen him battle anyone, which shows how brilliant his race has gone so far. He will be the first person in this season to take 3 wins so far of this race, but you never know. We have seen drama on the last lap before turn on his head, yellow flag. That is Frankie, unfortunately. As I said that, I was hoping it was going to be Rowan, but it's not Rowan, as Frankie unfortunately could be a lap down if he's not careful. But Legend is going to have a last gasp battle to try and get past Kazizel on the final lap. This is for the final spot on the podium. Puncher for who?
Kazizel's got a puncture, front left puncture.
Oh,
it just
no.
happened as Legend was about to pull out for the move. Kazizel got the puncture. So is he going to be the only one? Are there any others that are going to struggle with punctures? But that came at the worst possible point on the lap. He's got to do the full lap with no front left tyre.
He's going to be out of the points. Oh, he's spun.
Oh, he's round.
Oh, no. Yep, he's going to be out of the points. He was another driver that avoided so much trouble, and he had little trouble to his name. And what costed him a potential P2. And look at that move that Brock just did inside of Pouron. That I have to say was absolutely insane from Brock. Luckily I just caught the end of that. But Brock get past Marlon in Pouron and gave a lot of space, to be fair, but still got the move done. Marlon tried to defend it, but did not work. Brock coming out of nowhere this race up to Kazizel. Kazizel now is getting disqualified from this race. That's a bit harsh, but there we go. So Kazizel has gone from having the time of his life, having his best result of the season, to having the worst result of the season and getting disqualified. But there's one man where you can't take away any glory from. Is Rowan. He never put a foot wrong. He started on pole, and from lights to flag, he wins it in Belgium. And I have to say, Rowan could be the new championship favourite as Legend passes Rudy into second place. Did Rudy get a penalty on the last lap? I don't know. Brock finishes in 4th. Don't know how, but he avoided the trouble this race, and he got up to 4th. Nando also avoided the trouble in this race and got his best result of the season in 5th. Marlon's in 6th. Marcador somehow finished 7th. Marcador's got a puncher as well. Oh my god, I don't know. I think he got it on the final corner because he still outmanaged 7th. Lamaya 8th, Surface 9th, Fabian 10th gets the final. I'm just going to go on board and see who's had punches. Rudy, doesn't look like Rudy's got a puncher. 5/10 of a second.
I think it's just Marcador's, yeah. I think it's just Marcador's by the looks of things. I'm looking through all the drivers myself as well. I think Marcador's did get that puncture through the bus stop on the very end of the lap, so he got away with it, but yeah, that was to say that was a chaotic end to the race was a bit of an understatement, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, and I do believe that this will help Legend in the championship as well gain crucial point in the championship. Again, I think the gap between Rudy and Legend will be 2 points in this championship, and with Rowan in the picture now winning the race, the gap couldn't even be more close, so I'm very excited. And by the way, if Brock just gained 68 thousandths more, he could be on the podium. That's how close it was between himself and Rudy. So I wonder if Rudy got a penalty on the last lap. We don't know. But Brock could have always got a podium there. So I have to say, best result of the season for Brock. His best result of the season was, I believe, 6 points in Bahrain. Hasn't got any good results since then. And he's now going to get 8 points in Belgium. I have to say, he was under the radar this race, but he avoided most of the trouble, and that's what got him the P4 today.
Yeah, definitely one of the standout drivers and in-game driver of the day there as well, just to boot. So, yeah, brilliant drive from Brock today. And, yeah, such a shame he just missed out on that final spot on the podium. But either way, I think he'll be happy with 4th, considering the seasons he's had. Only 2 points finishes up until today. And, yeah, by far his best result of the season. But, yeah, that was... I would say probably the most chaotic race we've had for this season. If anything, from second down, I think for the lead, it was anything but chaotic for Owen. That was, I think, fair to say, probably one of the most dominant races of the season. And I mean, just look at his fastest lap compared to everybody else inside the top 10. Nobody inside the top 10 managed to get in the 44s, and Rowan managed to get a 44.5.
Wow.
The fastest lap of the race. So, yeah, just miles clear of the rest of the field today was Rowan. Looked in no trouble whatsoever. And considering the run of form he's been on, and I mean, he still managed to get a brilliant result in Portugal despite getting bad luck in the pit stops. You've got to say, especially with the mistakes Rudy's been making in the past couple of rounds, and the lack, again, Legend just lacking the speed to really challenge for the win. Rowan's definitely got to be the favourite now going forwards.
Now, we said that drivers are favourites, and now they're going to probably have worse races in the championship, thanks to us, because we said that about Rudy, and he's been involved in incidents. We said that about Legend, and he's managing to not challenge for the win, but you never know. So we'll go through your results then. 6.7 seconds was the gap in the end between Rowan and Legend. He definitely gets my driver of the day nomination as well, and definitely Brock as well, and Nando. Those 3 honourable mentions. So your results then for PSF1 are Rowan in P1, Legend P2, Rudy P3, Brock P4, Nando P5, Marlon P6, Marcados P7, the Maya 8, Surface gets another few points added to his total. He's now on 3 points in the championship. Some solid points for Alfa Romeo this week, which is great to see. And Fabi gets the final point in 10th spot. But Stuart's pending, of course. We'll take you through the rest of the results. Your retirements are Cazidal, Asicone, Tom, and Jensen. Obviously, Tom brought out that safety car. And to be honest, Belgium never disappoints.
No, it never does it? It always brings up something. It's always a wet race, or there's carnage, or something goes on, or it's just great racing. We had kind of a mix, really, today, didn't we? It was a pretty hectic race, to say the least, and we ended up with the top 3 in the Drivers' Championship, the top 3 on the podium, not in the right order, but they were all on the podium, which, after a race like that, is bizarre to think, especially considering the storylines that all 3 of them had. All 3 of them had very different races, but yeah, very, very interesting race in the end. Spa always delivers, and it just makes the championship again even more interesting.
And I'm definitely going to be there to see it, and make sure you're there to see it as well. We've got a few more rounds of this championship still to go, and I have to say it's pretty much going to be a 3-horse race now until the end of the season, and I wonder if it's going to go down to the final round. Please go down to the final round. I would like to see it go into COTA. We've seen Lewis Hamilton win the title in COTA so many times, and we could see it here in a few weeks' time as well, with either the likes of Rowan, Legend, or Rudy. You never know. I don't think anyone else could do it, to be honest. The gap is downhill, to be honest. But I have to safe to say, a bad performance from Tom as well. He got very unlucky with his incident, and for the first time, his teammate outshone him.
Yeah, you've got to say that, definitely. I think even beyond the incident that Tom had, Brock just seemed to have the edge on Tom today for the first time this season, which obviously not great for Tom, but definitely a confidence boost for Brock going forwards. I would say that's definitely something that he's lacked this season. I would say is probably confidence in himself, and he's now been able to get that with a really good performance. So yeah, good for Brock. I would say definitely good for Brock. I think I'd give him my driver of the day today. Kind of flew under the radar, kind of similar to what we saw from Nando last week. Flew under the radar, had great race pace, picked up the places when people made mistakes, and did a brilliant job. So yeah, great job from Brock. And again, so many drivers this season are having really bizarre seasons, aren't they? It's the top 3 are the only ones that really getting consistent results, but even then it's not the way that we thought it would be. It's been Rudy for the first half, and now Rudy's starting to make mistakes, and Legends in our eyes at least, potentially has underperformed, and Rowan is now becoming almost the star of the season as the season goes on. So it's been such a bizarre season. And then beyond that, you've got people like Tom, who of course finished second last season. Of course, Tom did. He had such a good season last season, and this season it's just not translated at all. He's just not looked really close to being able to challenge at the front. The only time he did was at Bahrain, and he got taken out of a potential race-winning position there. So it's been a weird season, to say the least. It's been a great season, absolutely. I've loved this championship fight, but to say it's been a weird championship is a bit of an understatement.
I have to say, that's what PSGL brings you at the moment. Do we have anyone that wants to talk to us?
We do not, by the looks of things. I don't think we're very popular today, unfortunately, Jess.
No, usually Legend wants to speak to us, but I'm guessing since he hasn't won a race tonight, I'm guessing he doesn't want to speak to us further. Oh well, we will wrap up the stream now. And by the time I probably say our goodbyes, they probably want to speak to us. So I'm sure Ada will keep an eye on that, and if they do want to jump in, just butt in once you get the minute. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching PSGL PSF1 tonight. It's been absolutely amazing. If you want more PSGL action, we got GT7 kicking start their season once again tomorrow. I believe it's at 8 p.m, which you can check out on the PSGL YouTube channel. It's good to support our other racing series as well, so make sure you check that out. And of course, we've got the big one, PCF1 returns once again at 7 p.m. UK time, with the likes of George Morgan and Jack Cannan take you through the action on that one. Full qualifying around Australia is surely going to be such an epic race, and sometimes the winner of the first race goes on to win the championship. Not always. We'll find out if that happens on Wednesday at 7 o'clock. Of course, we've got the other PCTs on Thursday, and then we got us on Monday, take you through the Australia action next Monday at 8 o'clock as well. Make sure you follow us on socials at PremierSimGL on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to check out our GT Omega products, which I forgot to plug this stream, make sure you click the link in the description. You get a 5% discount code by using the code PSGL. You can get some lovely PSGL products, and the winner of PSGL F1 will get themselves a gift voucher to use for GT Omega. So thank you to GT Omega for all your support as well. And with the new adverts that we played on the stream, still got one more new advert to show you as well, and it's a very nice one. So yeah, we may as well wrap up the stream because no one wants to talk to us. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you check us out next week. But until now, for myself and Aidan, we'll see you next week. Ta-ra, bye-bye.
This broadcast was brought to you by GT Omega, proudly supporting PSGL.